are you stuck with the zone that you're, allocated to based on where you live? And how does, like, if you want to go to a school that you're not zoned for?
Okay, so the question seems to be, are you bound, firmly bound by your residential geography?
Yes.
Yeah?
I can answer, or you? How about we do this? You correct me when I'm wrong. To start. Pre-K is, I think, in the district, and there is a lottery system, and you are not guaranteed a pre-K spot, and so you'll search for those. Now, when you're looking at kindergarten, you'll have a locally zoned school. Whether your child is in pre-K at that school or not will not affect their chances of getting into that school. Your locally zoned school, here's the tricky thing, may shift and change. It's a little bit of a quicksandy thing. You can move into the zone of where you think is a really good school, and two difficult things can happen. One, you may be rezoned by the time your child is ready to go into kindergarten, or the school can be oversubscribed, more likely to happen in Manhattan than Queens. So that's something to keep track of. Also, schools change. The principal really determines the tone of a school. So if your principal changes, the school can go up or down within a year or two. So that's a really important thing to look at. Now, within that, the best sort of strategy that I think is, and what most people do, not just in New York City is kind of a hothouse flower, but what most people do in the country is move to a school, move to a neighborhood where they think there is a good school. It doesn't matter if you're in New York City or somewhere in Texas. It's how a lot of parents make their decisions about where to live. Once that happens, then you open up every possible option to you. That may mean there are gifted and talented programs in your district, so you need to sign up for the gifted and talented test. It may mean there's a lottery for a school outside of your district. This applies to District 6. There's a lottery for District 3 schools, which you'll never get, but that's beside the point. There are some great dual language schools that you can apply to. You have to search probably within your district. A lot of this information is, I hope it's on your website. The competing, I assume you're competing in some ways, but they're both nonprofit. InsideSchools.org has a fantastic database of what schools are in what zone. They rate the schools, they review the schools, parents comment on the schools. And the other thing I would say is, the best, I find, this is the trickiest thing, is that schools often have a newsletter put out by the PTA. You can go on the school's website, look at that newsletter. You'll find out more about the school than anywhere else will tell you. And most people don't know to do that. And if the school doesn't have a newsletter, worry about the fact that it doesn't have a PTA, parent body that's organized, or school that feels that's important enough to put out. Anyway.
So the follow-up that wasn't about kindergarten, but was about pre-K, and Mary speak to this as well. So for pre-K, does it matter where you live, and you can apply to any of the pre-K zones, or no?
It's much more limited, as Doug said. You're not guaranteed a spot, and most of them are limited to the district. But let me say, Doug is completely right. They like to change the zoning lines. So you can move into a building, and your building in 2 years is cut out of the zone for reasons that no one will ever be able to decipher. But the best way to check is to see what zone your school is in two ways. One is the city encourages you, believe it or not, to call 311. And they have the most accurate maps on 311. We link to Inside Schools on all of our pages, our school pages. We love them. We think they do a good job. We've heard a lot of complaints that their school visits are outdated, but they're very useful. But we deliberately did not put zoning maps on our site because things change, and we didn't want people calling us angry that they moved into a place that doesn't go to that school anymore. The other great way to check is to call the school. Just call, am I in, they have the list of every building and every address in their district, and they can tell you whether you are there. I do think that there's one more option I'm going to mention in terms of school, and it's the C word in New York City. It's charter schools. They are proliferating. And you may be philosophically opposed or not, but they're coming to your neighborhood. I don't think that's going to change.
Yes.
I wondered, this is something I'm still confused about. My kids are already in school, but I was thinking it might be helpful for parents to know the difference between the larger districts within the city, because for the various kinds of special schools that you can apply for, the dual language and the art schools and those kinds of things. I think typically you have to be within the district that you live in, but then you also have your zone neighborhood school.
Can somebody speak about districts and then zones within this?
Yeah, you're in a particular district, and that applies to where the local district G&T program might be, or different, like there's a school called Shengwen in the district that we're in. It's a dual language Chinese-English, and you can apply there if you're within the district, which is, you can go on the DOE website and find the map for your district. The locally zoned school, the school that you theoretically have a spot in when your child is turning 5, is just a much smaller area of a block or two or whatever it is. And again, those lines do shift. I wouldn't be paranoid about the lines shifting. I mean, I don't want to give you guys that message or you to take that away. I think if you find a good school in a good zone, the DOE doesn't want to shift those lines, but overcrowding tends to be the reason that lines shift. Then you get the catch-22. If it's got a great reputation, a lot of people are going to move into that neighborhood. So you can call the school or you talk to people and find out what the enrollment situation is in the previous years and whether they're having trouble having enough space for their students.